the end of the day.
It's Mel.
And me. You wanna know
How we did it.
You wanna know how we do it. You wanna know
How we
we're
doing
doing
it.
Welcome to the Mel and Me podcast.
At the end of the day.
And we back up in here.
Yes, we are.
Starting off with phlegm in my throat. Let me take a sip of my tea. That seems to be a little kind of ritual thing that we do to start off our episode.
Yes, and it's
So
good.
let's do that. We got the Moroccan tea again. I think we're gonna have to contact them. Although I'm not sure if they'll be listening to us, being as how they are in another country and on another continent. They don't really care about us. But I think we're drinking their tea enough and promoting them enough. Although we didn't give a brand name, so
Yeah.
I guess they're still good from there as long as we got the good tea to hold us. So we're into a new episode. This is episode 3. Episode 3, and we're coming off of our last episode, which was kind of my my favorite episode. It's only the second episode we shot now, so that's pretty easy. But I'm just thinking about the subject matter of where we discussed South Africa, and what we're trying to do and what we've been working on really for the past few years.
Right.
And so that was a good episode. And so I thought that it might make sense when contemplating, what do we talk about next? I kind of felt like it might make sense to tackle the subject matter that we're going to today, and that's simply called sprint or marathon, right?
Yep.
Again, sprint or marathon. Do we go fast or do we go slow? That's basically what it comes down to. And so I thought that it might be good coming off of that particular topic of discussion that we were on, just simply because of the nature of what it is that we're doing. And like we said in the last episode, all the groundwork that we laid, and really, a lot of the habits and I guess, outlooks and perspectives that we've held over the years, I think has position us well to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And so along with that, and what ties into that, is this whole concept of sprint or marathon, because as we'll kind of find out as we go through this episode a little bit, and hopefully it'll come out in our exchange, is that when you're embarking upon something like this or anything that's like big, right? I don't think that sprinting is the way to go.
I don't either.
I think you got to be looking to run a marathon.
Right.
So, as we begin to get into this whole thing,
And I do just want to say, for those
Okay.
who didn't catch that episode of us talking about South Africa, you can always go back and revisit that. So as we making reference to that, if you didn't get a chance to see it.
yeah, in fact, as a matter of fact, what we will do is we will have a link to that episode, even though it's in this same list of episodes here. We'll put a link in this episode, so that you can just go right to it.
Right.
So yeah, but do check that out. It ran a little bit long. It ran like about an hour and a half. We normally only try to schedule ourselves for about an hour, but depending upon the subject matter, it could go a little bit less. In the case of that one, it could go a bit over.
Yeah.
And I'm sure y'all got a chance to see what happens when it goes over and when keeping it real goes wrong,
Right.
as they say. With this one right here. And what she pulled at the end of that episode, I guess she got tired. She didn't quite have the legs for it, but it bees that way sometimes. But we just need you to.
I'm awake now.
Now you are. Yeah. I'm talking about, I needed you to be awake back then.
I was late.
Of course, you woke up
Yeah.
after a while when you had something to say or something.
Right.
You had something to talk about.
Right.
But we got through it, and we'll get through this one as we still feel our way through this thing. I guess we passed the stage of feeling our way through.
Right.
We're on our third episode, so
Right.
we'll let it ride.
Yeah.
So in thinking about this this sprint versus marathon thing, one thing that came to mind is the tale of the tortoise and the hare.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So we all remember the tale of the tortoise and the hare. We might, from when we were kids in grade school or whatever. And so you had this I guess it was an Aesop fable, right? A tale, right? A tall tale, if you will, where, I don't know, what's a tall tale? Well, a tall tale, does that just mean it's like something that's just so far-fetched as opposed to just a regular tale? I got to look that up to see what is a tall tale. In fact, anybody who knows what a tall tale is, comment in the comment section and tell me what a tall tale is.
Let us know.
They're all just tales to me.
Right.
But nevertheless, the tale of the tortoise and the hare, where you had this hare, a rabbit, right? For those who don't know what a hare is, a rabbit, a hare, challenged this turtle or tortoise. And there's a difference between a turtle and a tortoise, right? Mm-hmm. What's the difference between a turtle and a tortoise?
It's the shells, I think.
Is it the shell or is it where they live?
Both. I think both.
You trying to cover your tracks?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I'm pretty smart, but I don't claim to be like all knowing about all things. I think the difference between the turtle and the tortoise is where they live. One primarily lives in water, and the other primarily lives on land.
Yeah, but
I think that's a primary distinction.
Okay, but it is with the shells too. Yeah,
but nevertheless.
Yeah.
Okay, but nevertheless, we just gonna call it the turtle,
right?
Because we all understand turtles, right?
Everybody know that.
Tortuga. So you had this hare that challenged this turtle to a race, okay? And as we know, rabbits are fast, right? Turtles are slow, right? So you had this rabbit that say, "Yeah, man, I'll challenge you to a race. No problem. I'll race you." Matter of fact, I don't even know if the turtle challenged the rabbit or the rabbit challenged the turtle. But nevertheless, the rabbit or the hare got cocky.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so the hare, what did he do?
Went to sleep.
He went to sleep. So the hare chose to go to sleep because he said, I can't figure out, number one, why the hell was the hare going to sleep in the first place? Was he tired?
He was tired because remember he started out running. He was running real fast, and so he figured, I'm so far ahead. No. I can go ahead and take a break.
Okay.
And you still won't be able to catch up with me. That's why he chose to go to sleep because he was tired. Because he exerted too much energy.
Right. Yeah. So the race had already started. They were well into the race, and so it goes to show you how Again, even I don't remember all things, everything all the time. And so the race got underway, and they were running. The hare, as expected, was blowing them away. The turtle's just doing this thing. I remember the cartoon back in the day, watching it on the Cartoon
Network.
A depiction of it. Not Cartoon Network. We didn't have Cartoon
Network.
Was it Cartoon Network? We didn't have Cartoon Network when we were coming up.
Well, I don't know what
it was. That was the millennials had Cartoon Network.
What was it?
We just had regular channels.
Channel
7, Channel 32 back home, WFLD.
Yeah. I know, but for some reason I thought it was still tied into one of those. But
Anyway, so the hare chose to fall asleep, and he fell asleep, and I don't know if he had an alarm clock. He obviously didn't have an alarm clock. He probably should have set an alarm clock so that he could know to wake up, give himself so much time to sleep. Because once you fall asleep, you lose control over things. It's just a matter of you're waking up. So, nevertheless, he woke up and he took right back off in true hare fashion. Took off, got to the finish line, and guess what? The turtle was there. Yep, the turtle was there. And so I can imagine for the hare, he might have been like, WTF? Mm-hmm. How did this happen?
Right? Exactly.
So, the moral of the story is, and as we were, taught when we were kids, the moral of the story is that speed doesn't always win. Mm-hmm. Right? It was the turtle's
Slow and steady.
Slow and steady, or his persistence.
Yeah.
Right? And his just being methodical about doing what
Yep.
he did.
Yep.
And not worrying about the rabbit and being patient and say, hey, I got this heavy shell on my back. But I didn't pass this rabbit up, who knows how many hours ago, because he overexerted himself. He expended so much energy doing what he does that he felt the need to go to sleep, and he was so confident and cocky that he felt like he could sleep on me.
Right.
And I made it to the end.
Yep.
Right? So that's the moral of the story, is that speed is not always the best answer. Sometimes it's persistence, and it's planning, and it's steadfastness, that's going to serve us well.
Right.
And so that really is what's at the core of this particular episode. I'll tell you right off the bat, obviously we're kind of marathoners.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Right. You say that with you're adamant about that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's quite obvious, just given the fact that, we've been married 31 years.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
We obviously, especially in today's world, where the divorce rate is 50%. It's been that way for a long time, right?
Yeah, maybe even higher. Yeah.
Maybe higher now. But just sticking to this whole thing right here, right? I think is testament to the idea that we've at least subscribed to the idea of running a marathon.
Yep.
Right. So with that, let's look at sprinters and marathoners, right? So right now the track and field season had kicked up, right?
Yes.
We didn't watch. We caught a couple YouTubes of the girl Shelly Ann Fraser Price.
Yeah.
Doing her thing from Jamaica. We're American. We're from the United States, but you can give props where props is due.
Yes.
Sha'Carri Richardson is doing her thing. She's been doing her thing. But Shelly Ann Fraser Price is back on the scene, and so those big competitions are going to be coming up in the coming months, and we get to watch all that high energy, exciting action of the sprint, right? And so, when you think in terms of those sprinters as opposed to marathoners, you think about all the Kenyans and stuff who tend to win marathons. Like I remember back in the day, there was a lady that used to always win the Boston Marathon when I was growing up, and I was a kid, but I'll never forget her name. She was a white woman. I don't know if she was actually European. Well, she's obviously European descent, but her name was Greta Weitz. Greta Weitz, Weitz. She won the Boston Marathon many years in a row. When I was a kid coming up, so I remember that name. But outside of her, I mean, from then on, it's like all I ever saw was like Kenyans or Somalians, that would win. And you look at the build of the marathoner versus the sprinter, right? And sprinters tend to be more what? What? Sprinters tend to be built in what way?
Oh,
think about the Shelly Ann Fraser Prices.
Her legs and stuff are real big. You talking about some of the legs?
Not necessarily real big. So
but they're very
think
muscular.
Think about Sha'Carri Richardson. She's like a walking muscle, right?
Yeah, they're all muscles.
They're all muscles.
They have to be.
They have high muscle density and stuff like that, right? And so their build tend to be a little bit, typically on the shorter side. Although you do have people like Usain Bolt, who was a world champion sprinter, very tall guy. So he kind of broke the mold for that. But but typically they tend to be. The point is more muscular, right? Whereas you look at marathoners, they tend to be more lanky and lean, right? A lot smaller in frame. And so those physical build differences, benefit them in certain ways, right? You take a sprinter, they only got to run, 100 meters,
200
whatever,
meters.
100, 200 meters at a time, 60 meters or something like that. Whereas a marathon, you're talking 26 miles,
right.
half a marathon, 13 miles, right? So, it does not behoove you to take and expend all your energy at the start of the race, right? Because you got to have that energy, in 6 miles. You got to have that endurance in 10 miles, 13, 20, on up to 26, right? So it's a different type of conditioning. You
But
know?
even with talking about the track, even if you look at the 100 meter and then you look when they do the 1500, how they go a little bit slower in the beginning because they
Right.
need to save their energy, and then when they doing that last 100, that's when they pick it up and run it to the end. But if they started out moving fast, then they have no energy at the end, and those are the ones that end up a lot of times not making it to the finish line.
Yeah, and they pace themselves, right? And
Yeah, you have to pace yourself.
It's more of a strategic thing.
Absolutely.
They start out with strategy from the very beginning.
Yes.
Right? Whereas that sprint, it's like if you so much as come off that line a split second, a millisecond too late, you can be left behind by, 3 meters or something like that.
Yeah.
So, so definitely, physical build differences, the conditioning is different, the mindset is different, just that whole thing, right? Now, here's something to consider. Again, like I said, we are marathoners. We subscribe to the marathon principle and not the sprint. And we're going to get into that in a couple minutes, to kind of discuss the differences and why I think it's important, why I think it's critical, and why I think it's more beneficial when it comes to life, just this whole life thing, to adopt the attitude of a marathoner as opposed to running a sprint. So a marathoner can run 26 miles, right? And just as you stated with, say, somebody running a 1600 meter, they might turn it on for the last, however many meters, 100 meters or whatever. Okay? So suffice it to say that a marathoner could actually run a sprint. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
A marathoner can indeed run a sprint. They may not run it as fast as a sprinter does,
Right.
but they can run a sprint without passing out.
Right.
They can get you, I guarantee a marathon can get, let's say a sprinter will run 100 meter in, say, 10.8 seconds.
Yeah.
A marathoner might get you there in 12.5.
13, yeah.
Right? But nevertheless, they can run that sprint.
Right.
Now, let's turn around and ask this question. Matter of fact, let's see if we're on the same page. What do you think I'm going to ask you next?
So if we just talked about we can do. Oh, have we done both?
Nope.
Or will we do both?
So I said a marathoner can run a sprint.
Right.
So what's the next logical question from that?
If a marathoner can run a sprint, can a sprinter run a marathon?
Now we here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And see, that was unscripted, right?
Yeah.
I just want to see how much on the same page we are. Yeah, so that's the next logical question, right?
Yeah.
If you know me, right?
Yeah.
Can a sprinter run a marathon? Do you think a sprinter can run a marathon?
They can. I mean, potentially. I mean, it's not to say that they can't do it.
So when you say potentially, what do you mean by
I
that?
think it depends on the individual.
In what way?
Their mindset, if it's something that they are physically able to do, and if it's something that they want to do. Because there's nothing saying that the ones that's sprinting right now doing 100, 200 meters that they can't do a marathon if they so choose to do so. It just, obviously you would have to change your regimen, you would have to change, your workouts and your preparation and stuff for it, but there's nothing saying that you can't do it.
Okay. And so I guess we're playing the semantics game here. And you're right. Let me just acknowledge that up front. You are correct in what you're saying. But that's kind of like not where I was going.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
You made it complicated. You pulled the rug from under.
I'm sorry.
But that's cool, though, because you make a good point. But so I want to go back to that and say my perspective was that no, they can't. Okay. But that no, they can't was with caveats playing in my mind that kind of equates to what it is that you were speaking.
Right.
Okay. So all things being equal, meaning that a marathoner trains to run marathons.
Right.
A sprinter trains to run sprints.
So in that
there's
instance,
no additional training that they
okay,
do.
so in that instance, then no. In that instance,
right?
Right.
A marathoner can run a sprint because they can run 26 miles.
Right. Absolutely.
A sprinter cannot run a marathon.
But like you said, if given that, with the training, if nothing else is going to change, and this is what your program is, your workout and all of that, then yes, I agree with that.
If
yeah,
right? But they're doing is, but what have they done effectively? What did the sprinter do effectively by doing that? They have just adopted the mantra of the marathoner.
Yeah.
They've adopted the ways of the marathon. They have subscribed to the marathon principle in doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Think
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
It just dawned on me as I'm saying it.
Right.
But but yeah, so that's it. It's like without adopting that marathoner mindset, there is absolutely no way a sprinter can run a marathon. They will drop dead. I mean, most marathoners,
Yeah, it's tough.
they're not careful. They'll drop dead trying to run a marathon. You see
Yeah.
marathoners go across the finish line.
It's rough. Yeah.
about ready to fall out.
Yeah.
People had to carry them across the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what it is, right? So yeah, a marathoner can run that sprint, but a sprinter cannot run that marathon. So I think that that's something that we need to bear in mind if we want to adopt that mindset of the sprinter. It's a lot harder to shift into that marathon mode once you adopt the way of the sprint, the mindset of the sprint, in this approach to life.
Yeah.
And again, like we said before, just because we're saying it doesn't mean that's necessarily the answer. I'm just offering our perspective,
Right.
on it. If someone chooses to run that sprint because it works for them, then hey, it's just that the marathon, works for me and works for us.
Yeah.
Now that's not to say I haven't taken on the sprint here and there.
Yeah. I mean, because
there are ramifications for that.
Yeah,
though,
it is. Because some people may say, "Hey, I can do both."
How can you do both? How can you run a sprint and a marathon?
Depending on whatever the situation is.
Give me a situation. Don't bring it up if you're not going to speak to it.
Well, it could. Okay, we can take the example of paying off debt. Okay, you can either pay it off long term, say, let me give myself 5 years and just pay X amount of money, however much that is. Let's just say you owe $10,000 worth of debt. I can spread this out over a 5-year period. Okay, I'm at my job. I got a raise. I got a bonus. I can now get ahead. Rather than me taking this out 5 years, I can go ahead and pay this $10,000 debt off in a year because I can take my bonus and the raises that I got and go ahead and get rid of that debt. Therefore, I moved quickly to do that. That's just what I'm.
So that's effectively running a sprint. You're saying in a practical sense, you have a task that you're trying to perform, right? And so you just knock it all out in one shot.
Yeah.
That makes sense what you're saying. Go ahead, finish.
But I'm just saying because you can do that either way, and that's just that was just one. I think that's a good one because a lot of people have financial goals that they're trying to accomplish, and how quickly can I accomplish these goals, or do I need to take it out long term? So I think you can use this type of analogy with finances.
Okay. So to accomplish a specific task, you can employ it in certain instances, right? Okay, I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. However, remember the topic, the premise.
Yes.
The premise
yes.
But no, you're absolutely right, and I think that it's good to establish the fact that you can delineate. Excuse me. That sometimes there are specific tasks.
Yes.
When you're talking on a micro level.
Right.
As opposed to the macro level.
Exactly.
Which is kind of like where we're.
Right.
Like this topic is kind of more so focused on the macro level as opposed to life, just your life's journey.
I just want to add that.
No, but that makes sense though. So I'm gonna give you that one. You take your opportunities to.
I appreciate that.
To flex.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Pat myself on the back.
So okay. So when you run a sprint, and I know we're still talking about running and sprinting and stuff like that. Here's another thing to consider though. Difference between sprints and marathons. So when you have that sprint that you're running, right? And we're still in that analogous space here. The crowd is all there. Like you got that high level of excitement for that 100, 200 meters. Everybody's on top of it, right? Whereas when you have that marathon, right? Everything takes place during the sprint from here to here. And that's all you got. And you got all of these people that are gathered around there. The crowd, the cheering section and all that kind of stuff, right? The crowd goes wild, right? Kentucky Derby, same thing, right? Real quick, 2-minute race. And then it's over.
Right. Yeah.
Just like that, quick. Right? With a marathon, the difference is you have waypoints.
Right.
And that's a term that I learned when I was in the Navy. working in navigation, right? Piloting, up the river and stuff like that. You have or along your track, as you're making it from point A to point B,
Right.
point C, D, and down your track, you have what's known as waypoints, and that's just basically a point along the way.
Right.
So you run a marathon 26 miles, you're going to start here. Eventually, you're going to end up here, and along the way, you have all these different waypoints, different scenic markers and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Whether it be a monument, a tower, whether it be a whatever, a certain type of building or whatever, cemetery you're going to pass, right? That's a waypoint along the way. Same thing with bicycling. And so it's an entirely different dynamic.
Right.
So when you're running that sprint, you get that immediate rush, right? Immediate rush, the crowd's cheering, everything is contained right there. Whereas with the marathon, it's a lot more boring, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't want to say boring, a little less exciting. We'll put it that way, right?
Because everybody know that it's longer, too. That's the first thing.
Right. And so they're spread out along the way. You may have a few people here that's cheering you on, like in one section that nobody else is at, but somebody's there to give you some water to motivate you forward.
Yeah, it does take some motivation to have to get through that.
Yeah, and then you get to the finish line, but then guess what happens when you get to the finish line?
A whole crowd there.
Everybody's
there to cheer you on.
Everybody's there to cheer you on when you cross that line, right?
Yeah.
So it's an entirely different dynamic, man.
Yeah.
And so when I think of it in terms of life, right, and how we approach things and how we approach life, you can kind of, and if you can think about real situations of people that you know or situations that you've seen, that's the way it's been.
Yeah.
Those who do things fast, everybody's there. Everybody wants to be a part of it, right? Everybody wants to be around, right? But when you're running that marathon, people are not really paying attention to you. They're sitting off to the side.
Not until you get to the end.
Not until you get to the end. And once you get to the end, it's like that Tortoise and the Hare. They like, damn, how did that happen?
Right.
And you just standing there like, yay me!
Exactly. Right. I made it.
That's how it is. And people left wondering, how the hell did they pull that off? Right?
Right.
And so that's the neat thing about the difference between those two dynamics. It's like, what do you want?
Right.
Instant
gratification.
You want that instant gratification.
Or delayed.
You want that rush, that immediate rush, or you want that long, sustaining type of thing where you have time to kind of lay things into place, set things in motion, mitigate, assess, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Plan.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is important.
Yeah, absolutely. So that there's definitely a difference there. So let's correlate it and let's try to bring it more into focus as far as our actual lives go. We're gonna try. We're gonna try. So what I want to ask you is, do you think in terms of us and how we've approached things, right? Do you think that the decision to run a marathon, do you think that that's something that happened immediately, or do you think that that's something that we kind of fell into over time? What do you think?
I think it was over time. I know it wasn't in the very beginning, and I'm trying to think maybe what led us up to it. I want to say, I don't know if it maybe was in the early, I can't remember when we exactly took that approach. I think maybe when we were, after we had our first child, I'm thinking. Obviously because finances were tight.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking it was then, because that's when the realization came in. I'm like, ooh, yeah, it was, because I remember stating, obviously, you went out to sea, we would lose money or whatever. So I think that's when the realization came then. So I think that's when, after you got back in and then we were, talking about it, I think, so that would have been, like the 90s. Yeah.
Yeah, so early in the beginning of the relationship, and once we moved in together, and we were pregnant with our daughter like shortly after, like within 5 months or whatever.
Yeah.
And so early on, I think I would have liked to think that it's something that we kind of fell into, but I think it's something that we were kind of forced into unconsciously, unknowingly.
Well, number one, I came into the marriage with a whole lot of credit cards.
Right.
A whole lot. And so you were like, no, we cannot. We're gonna have to go ahead and get this paid off, and you can keep 2 of the credit cards. Right. So that started out in the very beginning of us being saying, okay, this is how we need to approach
frugality.
Yes,
frugality, and leveraging your
from the very beginning.
Even though you did come with all them credit cards.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
But I think that kind of initially, started it, but not to where we really had deep discussions about it until after we had first child.
Right, and that's the thing. We didn't really start consciously discussing it until some years down the line.
Yes. Yeah.
Things became more deliberate, right?
Yes.
But in the beginning, I think we had adopted certain aspects of it.
Yeah.
And I'll give you an example. I'll think back to when we were in Connecticut in the military, and we had finished building the submarine, and we were getting ready to move down to Southeast Georgia to the submarine base down there. And I remember this because at the same time I remember kind of feeling sort of inadequate, even though I was kind of a junior enlisted, still classified somewhat at that time. How you might remember where a lot of guys on the boat, they bought houses.
Oh, yeah.
Because you had that builder down there that had come up. They were doing presentations up there in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, those houses at the time were selling for like average about
$53,000. And we couldn't get one.
You get a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house built from the ground up in a new community down there for like $50,000.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was a lot to us.
Yeah, and we
were like, what?
Yeah, $50,000 for a new home, and a lot of guys on the boat they bought houses. They had them houses built and stuff like that. We chose to move. We moved into that double wide manufactured modular home community. Yeah. Right. And even though I forget what our rent was at the time. How much did we pay for rent? You think?
I think it was $500.
It was $500 something back then.
I think it was $500.
It was nice though.
Oh, yeah.
3 bedroom, 2 bathroom. Yeah, it was like $500. Man, that sounds crazy now.
I know, it's $500. Yeah.
But at the same time though, that was equivalent to a mortgage on one of those $50,000 houses, right?
Right.
But at the time, other than the fact that I didn't really understand home ownership, coming from the projects.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So I didn't feel comfortable at that point. So I want to use that as being the first example, I think, where we at least subconsciously exercise that marathoner mindset. We were like, you know what? I see all these guys on the boat, young married dudes, even some of them, they were E5s like me at the time. A lot of them were chiefs and stuff like that, E7 and up. But we had some, first classes, E5s, E6s and stuff that bought houses and stuff. But it wasn't something that I felt comfortable doing because I just didn't, number one, throwing back to what you said about all the debt we had, all the debt you had, all the debt that you had from those credit cards.
I know that was
that we were going to take and clear up.
But I'll take it even a step further. As far as our mindset with that, because even though we were paying the $500 over there, we was like, okay, just have a new baby. I wasn't working at the time, and then we transitioned to housing.
Right, we moved into Navy housing from there. Again, that was another one of those strategic moves that we made.
Yes,
because it fell in line with our plan.
Right,
that marathon that we were running. We was like, it's not helping us to live out on the economy.
Right,
it's cool having this out here, but for us and what we're trying to do right now, it's best that we move on base.
Yep.
And so we would lose the VHA, the variable housing allowance piece.
Yeah.
And
but it was still worth it.
yeah, it was much worse because we had the security of being on base, and we just had to figure out how to feed ourselves. Which
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in some other episodes and stuff like that. With just the financial strain and just the financial struggle of those early years, man, it's crazy thinking back on that. But nevertheless, yeah, it was what it was. So
Right.
but definitely, so I do think that it's something that we just kind of gradually fell
gradually.
into. Just life's events just kind of
Yeah.
molded us into that
Yeah.
into that direction with becoming comfortable. Well, not becoming comfortable, 'cause I think we were always comfortable, but committing, I guess.
Yeah.
Committing to running the marathon. So, one of the barriers to doing that, I think, is peer pressure.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So you have peer pressure is just so, and that's something that we subjected to from the time that we began to socialize as preteens.
Exactly.
Preteens and teenagers, man, there's always some amount of peer pressure on you, and especially as you start to move up the economic ladder.
Oh yes.
Right, increase your status and stuff like that, from career, education, and stuff like that. You find yourself in new circles.
Yeah.
And you find yourself looking at others,
Trying to keep up
seeing
with them.
what they do, and you trying to keep, as they say, keeping up with the Joneses,
Yeah.
right? And so you have to be careful with that, with trying to impress others, because sometimes that can put us in a position, to where we adopt that sprinter's mindset, and,
Right.
and sometimes it can lead us off in some directions that we might not necessarily be able to recover from.
Right.
So that's kind of that can be a bad thing, and so we have to be careful of that. And honestly, we've seen a lot of that coming up
Oh yes.
from
For
where
sure.
we come from, and
For
even
sure.
since we've been together away from back
Yeah.
around the way. I mean, now, to be totally fair, if there is a way to be fair about it, there are obviously social factors in play to that, right? Coming from what we come from, and where we come from, where people, have nothing, and it's it was a generational thing, right? Just due to the systems,
Right.
in this country that have been in place, that we as minorities have had to deal with, and so we have those things that get passed down from generation to generation. Life becomes a hustle,
Yeah.
because you don't have the opportunities out there, because of the system.
Yeah. Right.
And so we have things that go on in the community, and you adopt that mindset of fast money.
Because sometimes it's about survival in a lot of situations.
That too, it becomes about survival. But along the way, and in the process of surviving, sometimes things get real good, and they get to looking real good to yourself and others, and then so you take and you have that peer pressure element now creeps into there,
Right.
and so now you're in that cycle of, okay, I got to keep it up, or I got to do it bigger.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's something you get sucked into like a vortex, And so that's excuse me. That's definitely a danger there. There are implications for that, trying to keep up, and we know all the usual, schemes and all those types of things that we can fall into, and we'll just generally speak, and this is not in judgment of anything. This is just mature conversation,
Right.
Just real conversation, real life talk, right? That's all it is. Real life talk, y'all. We know the things that go on out there, from the different types of hustles or whatever, whether it be the dope game, whether it be, boosting, auto theft,
Yeah.
jewelry heist, which we see a lot of that.
Yes. Yeah. That's on the rise.
Nowadays, see that all over the internet. Seem
Yeah.
like in multiple times a week you're seeing the brazen smash and grabs and
Yeah.
stuff, man. People
Getting
walking
real
in
bad.
malls and risking life and
Yep.
freedom
Yep.
to get that quick score.
Yep.
That's that living fast, right? That living fast, man. It's cool as long as you don't get caught up.
Right.
But once you get caught up, it's not something that you can necessarily bounce back from.
No.
And you may pay for it in one of a couple ways. It may be with our freedom, and unfortunately, it may be with our lives, right? And too often, we have seen that happen.
Yep.
And so for me, I knew early on that as far as all that go, that the fast life wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So
I've never been a fan of it either, really.
yeah. So taking the route that I did and going along that route, even with somebody like yourself over the time that I've had, has worked for me.
Yeah.
Now again, yeah. So it's work.
Yeah.
And I find that you can sleep better because you don't have those pressures.
True. I mean, and I'll say this: running a marathon can at times be difficult because you must employ patience, and a lot of times we don't want to be patient. But if you are trying to achieve a specific goal or goals, patience is going to be critical. And I think that's a lot of times why people don't necessarily want to take the marathon route, is because if you have to be patient for 5, maybe 10 plus years, that just may be too much when, you can probably make it happen even sooner. So I think with us, we've gotten even more patient over the years. We've been patient 4 years, but wouldn't you say we've gotten even more patient within the last? I mean, we just like, hey, whatever, we're good with this, and we slowly over the years have been making more and more changes as we continue down this path of being a marathon path. It's allowing us to be able to see what other necessary changes that we need to make, and then we strategically make those changes to be able to allow us to get to those goals.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, that's definitely, and then, as we are getting older all the time, it's like, that word retirement, man, is always playing in the back of my mind. And so the closer you get, once you start getting up there in that age, man, you have to make adjustments.
You have to.
Because you have a whole lot more to lose, and when you lose it, it has a much greater impact. There are much more dire implications when you lose it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's very important to continue to grow that mindset and become more and more comfortable with just kicking back and chilling.
And being okay with doing. And another thing I would say too is, with us, we don't get caught up in what somebody else think about us and what it is we're doing. As long as it's working for us,
right,
that's really all that matters.
Right.
And I think that when you get caught up into what other people think, that's what allows you to get sidetracked and move away from what it is you're trying to do, because you're concerned about what somebody else is going to think or what they're going to say. Once you develop the mindset, I don't care, it's working for my household, and stick with that. That's what we've been doing for years.
Yeah, and I think back to that last episode that we did where we said being sexy costs money.
Yes.
Right.
Expensive.
it costs money to be sexy, and if you want to be sexy, and that's kind of running that sprint. At times, you gotta be able to keep up with that. And if that's that can be for the next person, fine. But that's not for me, because I don't care to have to manage that level of stress.
Me either.
So because if you're not careful, you can find yourself, like I said, life, freedom, compromise. You end up in bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of people that happens to a lot of people. They end up in bankruptcy.
Divorced if you're married.
Yeah, because of the financial problems that can set in.
Homeless.
Yeah, so
job. I mean, it's just a lot of implications. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's look at I guess some personal examples of how we've subscribed to the marathon mindset. So I'll start off, unless you want to start off.
You can start off.
Okay. All right. I'll lead. So I think in terms of just my own situation, right, with the field that I work in, right. For many years since I've been in the and when I got into this field, it's been about 22 years now, as I mentioned on a previous episode, been in this field for 22 years. When I first got into this field, one thing that I was looking at when I was trying to decide what area of IT I wanted to go into, I chose this particular discipline, the data discipline, because when I looked around at the industry from what I saw at that time, I did not see a lot of a heavy presence of database professionals in the industry.
Right.
I used to hear this, this term all the time, with the certification that I have. I'm not going to give them any promotion.
Right.
With my particular certification, the vendor for my certification, the leader in database technology, I used to hear that all the time. I was like, oh, that sounds pretty cool. I've heard that before. And I was like, but once I looked into it, I was like, you know what? This is the area I'm going to go in. Because, like I said before, when everybody is going right, I want to go left, and vice versa. And so that was me making that calculation 20-something years ago. I said, you know what? I can see myself in this field, 20 years from now, and I'll have the same level of job security then as I have today. And lo and behold, here we are, 20 plus years later, and I've never, not a single day in my adult life since I left my mother's house at 18 going to the military. Since that time, I have never had a single day of unemployment in my life. Never.
Yeah.
And so, again, those are calculations that I made back then. And I say that to say that still to this day, being in this field, week in and week out, multiple times a month, just a couple days ago, I'm always responding to recruiters who are reaching out to me saying, hey, saw your resume, your profile on LinkedIn, whatever, very impressed by it, do you want a job, basically?
Right.
And I'm to the point now where I have a prepared response that I just paste into the reply to them. It's basically telling them, essentially that, thanks for reaching out, but I'm fulfilled in my present role.
Right.
Now, I know that I could take and jump, and I could have years ago now, when they first started doing it.
Yep.
If I wanted to just go chase money, to go chase $1, I know without a doubt that I could leave my present position that I've been in now for 11 plus years now, the present position.
That's true.
And I could jump and say, oh, I'm going to go make, this amount of money, just so I could say I make this amount of money.
Right.
Easy to do.
Yeah.
I can chase that paper, but guess what? I know in the long run, that's not going to be best for me because it's not going to give me what I have in my present position.
Exactly.
As far as having a full retirement, in addition to the other stuff that I have, benefits, right? In addition to the salary that I pull from there.
Right.
That's nothing to sneeze at, right? So why should I just chase $1? Why should I just run that sprint to go say, let's just toss just a general figure, something stupid. Let's just say if somebody wants to pay me $180,000, let's just say, a year, right? In Southeast, because San Francisco,
right,
180,000 would be just like me. I might as well go get myself a SNAP benefit card, right, out there. But as a hypothetical figure, right, I could say, I'm gonna jump. Oh, Mel, they want to pay me $180,000.
Right,
let's do it, right? It's all good for a year or two or whatever, right? But then, am I going to get what I'm getting from my present opportunity? The answer is no. Right. And who knows? That could be a contract, and then I find myself back out in the cold because I chose to take a contract position for say $180,000 hypothetically, and now I'm out of the comfort of the organization that I've been with for 11 years. Got a retirement pension that I've been building there, and all the other stuff great things that I have there. I've thrown that away to just go chase $1, right? That doesn't make sense, right? So you have to be in that mindset. So that's one. I guess that's one obvious quick one for me. Yeah. What do you have any examples or anything?
Was well, I guess even with my field that I'm in, now it wasn't early on with me.
Ooh, yeah. Go ahead though. Something came to mind about that. But go ahead.
It wasn't early on with me like it was with you, because you've been in your field for longer. Even though I've been in my field for 15 years. And I truly love being in this field. Like I said in the last episode, that I've known from when I was early preteen that I wanted, to work with families and stuff. So once I got into this field, then I got to thinking at that time, long term retirement. This is a field that I can retire on, so let me stay here, put my time in here. Now, again, social workers, just like teachers, do we get paid the amount of money we should be getting paid?
Right.
No.
Right.
But I think we all know that if you go into a field like social work, anything with public service or whatever, you have to be doing it is because you truly love to do it. You can't be doing it for the money, because trust and believe, if I was doing it for the money, I would be doing something else. So for me, that became reality once I got into the field, that I'm now looking long term for me is retirement.
Right.
And so making sure that I stay here and do what I need to do so that I can take advantage of my pension and everything once I reach retirement. So that's what it was for me.
Okay, yeah. And as soon as you start speaking, I remember. I'm thinking back to something before you got into this field that you're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
You adopted a sprinter's mindset at one point. And let's go back to before you went back to school, like we talked about in our first episode, right? When you chose to leave banking, when you were in banking, and you jumped over to mortgaging to become a loan processor when you were a personal banker.
Right.
That was a sprint. You adopted a sprinter's mindset, because I'm going to take you back real quick. What was your motivation
for leaving?
For a jump? Now, I know there were a couple things when you were a personal banker.
Yes.
But I remember specifically when you went over to loan processing, what was your whole mindset with that?
I wanted to learn the back end of it. That was my whole reason. It was two reasons for me leaving the front end, because I'm like, well, number one, because of the goals, the daily goals, quotas. The quotas was ridiculous, and I had a conversation with them about that. I wasn't going to meet the quotas, so I said, okay, since I'm leaving, I now want to learn the back end of it. So that was the whole reason why I left, and of course the shenanigans on the back end. But that was why I left.
But that's not, I'm talking the loan processing fee, because you went over into mortgaging. That's not the back end. So when you jump ship to mortgaging, one thing I remember was that was a hot field at the time because of all the commissions and all this stuff. And I remember the company that you went to work for, they had a big ritzy Christmas party and stuff.
Yeah.
But my point is, I thought, at least the idea that I got at the time was, you saw that you were kind of opportunistic with jumping over to loan processing because of the picture that was painted for you about what you could get out of going over there.
No, it was strictly for, I wanted to learn the back end, because it's not like I was getting any type of bonuses or anything from being over there. You actually had to be the closer to do that. I wasn't getting any of that as a loan process. That was still on the front end. I just wanted to learn the back end of it.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah.
But I thought you were saying back then, I thought you were like rubbing your hands together. Maybe I'm just mistaken. But
You're mistaken.
okay.
I would admit to it if that was not the case.
So here's where I was going with that. I was thinking about the fact that once you got over there and you started working within that framework of processing those loans, and that all of that mortgage fraud was happening and the rebundling of the mortgages and stuff, which led to the housing crash, right? And once you got over there, it turned into something different. And again, that's when you lost those 2 jobs in a 6-month period, going between 2 different companies and losing those jobs. So I just kind of thought it was all tied into there. And I thought that decision to make that jump was tied into that. So
no, but I wanted to stay in banking.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when I left from doing the front end of it, I'm like, how can I still stay into banking? I had no choice but to go and do the back end of it.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll give you that back.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
So you didn't run a sprint, so you stayed marathon.
Exactly.
It looked like a sprint.
No, but it was not.
Okay.
It was not.
All right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So another couple quick examples real quick. One thing we can look at, like we referenced earlier, is our South Africa journey, right? That's obviously that's the ultimate marathon thing there, because that's totally strategic.
Yeah.
That's been going on for years.
Yeah.
We've been at this thing for at least 3 years now.
Yeah.
You know, planning, researching, going over there, you know, getting our finances together and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I can see our little poster thing it's gone from. I'm gonna have to fix that.
Oh, okay.
It's still Melamito, y'all. We're gonna have to get that fixed. Our marquee or whatever, if you will, is going away. So yeah. Matter of fact, let me just put it back up there. We're gonna have a real, keep it real moment here. Let me see if I can get it going here. Oh, I think it just went away. Okay,
Well, you were on there earlier.
yeah, we're not gonna worry about it. I think it lost connectivity with the TV.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we'll get that next time. Maybe I'll edit it out, or maybe not. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So that whole thing is that's just been a marathon.
Oh, yeah.
We've been working
sure.
toward that, and that's going to be something that's ongoing. And obviously a lot of sacrifices that we're making in our lives going forward to make sure that situation can happen. But it's not a big deal. It's something that we're perfectly okay with.
Oh, yeah.
With living with. It works great for us. I guess the last little prime example that I would like to put out there for the people is situation with our daughter, right? So our daughter is 30. She will be 31 coming up. She recently, well, let's just cut to the chase. So she still lives with us, and it's by choice. She has been with us now for almost 7 years.
Yeah.
It's been about 7 years.
Yeah.
And we got her to come back here with us shortly after she finished her bachelor's degree because I kind of had this vision for her. She has her own vision, don't get me wrong, but, being as how I'm me and I have my ideas, just suggestions that I made because, at the end of the day, we are trying to create new legacies.
Right.
Yeah, that's really all it comes down to.
Yeah.
Me and my branch of the family tree, we're trying to build new legacies here. And so we understand that that's going to take a level of sacrifice and time that we're just going to have to take on. So we got her to come back here with us. And my suggestion to her was, okay, you don't have any kids. At the time, she didn't have a relationship, so it was just her. So I didn't feel it necessary at all for her to go, out on her own and sit between four walls, twiddling her thumbs and, work or do whatever, have to worry about, carrying those bills and all that kind of stuff that would go along with that. So she came back with us. And she's been with us ever since. In fact, she had a lot to do with why we bought the house that we're in now. That was to kind of entice her to move back in with us. I say, I'll have someplace nicer for you. You can have your own space and everything. We won't bother you. And so she came back with us, and she's been with us. She's worked a full-time career the entire time. She's had a full-time career. We've asked nothing of her. No bills. She doesn't pay us any money or anything like that.
Nope.
So for the past 6 years, she's been here with us, a full-time career person. She just finished up her master's degree, and now she's a registered nurse, and she's still with us. Now, when she finished her master's degree, I started the process of we were going to actually, she was interested in buying a new home, her first home. And so we set out to, and I'm a licensed real estate agent, so call me Clay, realtor. We set out to go actually find a piece of land or a lot to purchase for her so that she can build her house from the ground up. And then, after a while, and frankly, after, losing a few deals to other people out here who are trying to scoop up these lots, for cash because houses are so expensive now, people are now just buying land and lots to try to secure the land so that they can build a house on for cheaper than they would go out and pay for an existing home. And so we decided that what would be the smartest thing for her at this point is to not buy a home and to stay here a little bit longer.
And the interest rates are going up too.
Interest rates are going up. So again, it's that marathon mindset. Now my daughter could very well go out here and have a home of her own right now if she wants, but it's not necessary for her to. And so that's and she's okay with it, and she's okay with it because that's just how we roll. That's just the way we operate anyway. So she's respecting what we presented to her and presented the logic to her.
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah, what, that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, she said she thought about it. She said it made sense. Yep.
So she's going to be with us a little while longer, and she's going to continue to do what it is that she does. And when she gets to that point, and when the timing is right, okay, then she'll make that jump. But she's doing it on her own terms, and she's doing it, with a level of no stress and being well positioned to do whatever it is that she needs to do. It's about doing what makes sense.
Because if she would have taken the mindset of the sprinter, she could have went out there, jumped, got the house, and then, like you told her, okay, with all the expenses that go along with that, you don't want it to be that you're living paycheck to paycheck, barely can make your bills, all to say just because I have a home. You want to be in a position that if something goes wrong, you have the funds to pay for it. And because, again, she's 30, she no children, still be able to travel, have fun, and do those type of things, and not say I don't have any money because all of my money is going into this house. So I think looking at it in, from that aspect as well made a difference. So it was, again, just back to, she could have did the sprinter but chose to do the marathon.
Right. Not choosing to not be house poor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And just real quick before we start to wrap up, and I'd like to share with how I came up with that whole idea. So with her presenting to her to live with us. So back when we were building this house, we were still going into the office at the time, and I was in the break room and I was talking to one of my colleagues. He happens to be a Chinese guy. And in the course of our conversation, I was explaining to him, I think I was taking a lunch break. Over my lunch, I was coming over to the development, to the office over there, the sales office, to handle some business, right? And I was telling him how we were in the process of purchasing a new home and stuff. And so he asked me who was my builder. And I was like, oh yeah, we were building with right? He was like, oh, he said, my daughter's having a house built with them. They're building my daughter's house. And he's like, you say you have a townhome? I was like, yeah. He was like, so where is it? I told him where it was. And he was like, oh, that reminds me of, and I was describing to him the layout of the home, and he called the model name of the home. It sounded like something he was familiar with. I was like, wow, how'd you know that? He said, you know what? He said, my daughter's having a home built by them right now, and it's the same model that you have, right? And I got to thinking, because his daughter was a college student at the time. She was in graduate school at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
And she was living at home with them.
Yeah.
And he was telling me, he said, yeah, man, my daughter, she's been living at home with us the entire time she's been in grad school and in college. She lived at home, and she's just been saving her money, and now she's buying her first home.
Yep.
And I'm thinking, here I am at my age. This is our fourth home. Right. And his daughter is in her mid-20s, and buying the same home that I bought, same model, and it's in a different community, and that community is more expensive. The price point starts out, this model, probably about $50,000, well, I would say about $40,000 more than our community started here in the location that she's in.
Right.
And I'm like, wow, and that really woke me up. It really woke me up when I thought, and also the cultural thing came into play as well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because here's my colleague, a Chinese guy, because culturally, they tend to operate a little bit differently.
Yeah.
See, black folks, 18.
You out.
A lot of times, right?
In most cases, yes.
Especially back in the day. That's the way it was, right?
Yes. You're an adult.
But you find in other communities, man.
They'll have generations staying with them.
Yeah, multi-generational is no problem for them.
Not at all.
Right? And so when he said that to me, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I took a step back, and the whole time I was in my car driving to that office, that's when I started thinking about, I was like, yeah, I need to, in fact, I don't even think we had written a contract on the place. I had just found the place. That's what it was. And I was interested. It was even before I had told you about it, but we hadn't gone to visit it yet. And I was going out there to see it again before I showed you. And that's when I had my mind made up. I said, you know what? We're going to buy this house. I'm going to get with Melanie. I'm going to have her to look at our budget and see if we can manage it. We're going to make this investment into this home, and I'm going to get to come back home.
Yeah.
Because she was still in.
Yeah.
She was after she finished her bachelor's, and she was up there working. And so that's when I presented it to her. And it was from that conversation with him. And so effectively we kind of adopted the mindset, cross-culturally, right? In a sense. and it suddenly it became okay. It became something that was doable.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it took for me to take that note from someone of another culture to ingrain that, and since that time, I think that had a profound impact on me from that day.
Yeah.
As we went forward from there, it's like that. It just helped to reorient my mindset in so many ways. Just having that conversation with my colleague in the break area at the company.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lesson to be learned from that, man.
For sure.
Just seeing those, recognizing those differences, and there's something that I think that we, again, as Black people, can learn.
Right.
From other cultures, just as they can learn from us. But that's one particular aspect I think that I think helps us with being okay and helping to build. And given the situation that we've been in historically, I think that can be key to us reaching those higher levels.
And I think as parents, if you do have adult children, if they're being productive, they're doing something, and it allow them to, if they want to stay home, to be able to save their money, to ensure that when they do get out there on their own, that they're able to fully support themselves. And sometimes I think we don't want to do that. As Black people, we don't. It's like, you staying with us, no, or you're charging, because I know I had to pay when I stayed at home. So to me, I was okay with, you're staying here. You don't have to pay any of the bills. We're not asking you for any money for the utilities or anything like that. Save your money so that once you do leave,
save and invest.
You can truly afford to be on your own, because it's nothing like you're at home and then you leave and then you got to come back because you really couldn't afford to leave to begin with.
Right.
That's my take on it.
Yeah. So with that, we can wrap this thing up, man. We've been going a little bit.
Yes.
So I thought it was going to be a little bit tougher of a show, I guess. I don't know. I spent a lot of time talking about the analogy at the beginning with marathons and sprinters, but I think we kind of brought everything full circle.
Full circle, yes. Yes.
So that's another episode down, and we can look forward to the next one.
Yes.
That's going to be coming up.
Which will be.
And so this one we call sprint or marathon, right? It's kind of like that. That's something that over the past 10 years, you have this one or the other, McDonald's or Burger King,
right?
Walmart or Target,
right?
Vodka or Hennessy,
Right? Yeah.
So we're gonna continue this theme with the next episode,
right?
And we're gonna tackle something that I think can sometimes be controversial with people, especially people who are involved with each other, like couples and stuff like that. Married couples.
You don't even have to be married. You could just be in a relationship together.
Or shacking up or whatever.
Yeah.
but I think it's more so when you're married, though. It's a bigger deal, though.
It's a bigger deal when you're married.
So, and so what we're going to tackle in our next episode is the concept of separate or joint. When it comes to your money.
Yes.
That's the hero.
Yes.
Separate or joint.
Right.
Accounts.
Right.
Financial management and stuff like that. I know many people, man, that they like, no, I got to have my separate account. I'm not having my money mixed up with this person.
Right.
So that's what we're going to tackle on the next episode. So you might not want to miss it, especially if that's ever been your situation, or if you've ever had any discussion around that. So
it may spark some conversation, additional conversation in your household. But here from our perspective and how we've been able to deal with it, though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So with that, we're gonna wrap this up. We're gonna end this thing. And you got something else you want to say before we go into our little thing?
Like, subscribe, share, and comment.
See, I get lost on that. I probably should have done it throughout. We have the little things that run along the bottom to remind people. But I'm so bad about that because it's something that I hate doing. I hate asking people for stuff because I see other people doing. I know it's just it's a pain point for so many people to just press that button. I know how
I
it
just
is.
figured I'd put it out there. But I would like to know, you could drop in the comments, are you a sprinter? Or do you do a marathon?
Yeah.
I would like to know that.
You don't have to justify it either.
Yeah, you
can
got to
just
justify it. Sprint. Yes. So we can
whatever.
see.
Doesn't
It'd
matter.
be interesting to see. But
We
yes,
won't
that was
judge.
Not at
We
all.
won't judge. So anyway, y'all, hey, we're gonna get out of here, and we thank you for joining. Hope you enjoy the
Thank you.
content. So next episode, separate a joint.
Yeah.
Stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
In the meantime, as we like to say, it's
Mel.
and me, and this has been
The podcast.
Later.